Hello and welcome to Addicted to Lacrosse. This is, believe it or not, Season 5, Episode 1. Today is Tuesday, December the 12th, 2017. My name is Graham Perro. With me, as always, are Tyler Fitch and Melissa Daphne. I just want to wish a happy Hanukkah to all of you celebrating that today. We've got a bunch to talk about today. Obviously, the season has begun. And it's unusual that we're wishing a happy Hanukkah to people after the season has begun because that hasn't happened before. We're a month early. And so that's a little weird. We're not quite used to that. So we'll have that figured out pretty soon. But start off with, Tyler, looks like you wanted to talk about NLL sponsorship.
Right. Pretty much every day last week leading up to the start of the season, I received an email from the NLL. It's like, hey, we have a new cup sponsor. We have a new media person and a few other things. And it was great. It shows that they have like positive momentum. And it's exciting to see the league be able to pull people in like this. But the end result of me receiving those emails is a little cynical. It's like, why am I getting so many emails about the partnerships and no emails about the games? Like, which are we publicizing more right now? The fact I can buy a cup that says the Stealth, or the fact the Stealth have a game? I think we need to advertise the games a little more. So it was, I don't know, pluses and minuses to both. It's good that I can now get a Stealth cup as a gift or buy one myself. But what about the games? Like, what's actually more important? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Melissa?
You know, I got so many emails, I was kind of ignoring them. So I would kind of second that because the first couple I opened were so irrelevant, I stopped looking at them. So I would probably second that point because I started tuning them out, and I'm more interested than a lot of people to that stuff.
I thought I think it was the last one I received was that they had a new official supplier of referees uniforms.
Yes.
And other than the referees, I mean, we're as interested in the NLL as anybody, and who cares? Why is that of interest to anybody other than the referees?
I hope my kids don't watch, but they're all getting referee shirts in their stockings because now I know where to get it.
You can stuff them inside the cup that says Stealth on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would have given that a second thought whatsoever. I probably would have assumed that, hey, they're being sponsored by Under Armour this year, so they're made by Under Armour. I don't know. I don't even know who the big sponsor is. Yeah, this season snuck up on me. We'll just leave it at that.
It's one thing to publicize our jerseys are made by whatever, or our official sweatshirts or official t-shirts or official whatever, because fans want to buy that kind of stuff. But it's a pretty rare fan, I think, who says, I gotta get one of those NLL referee jerseys. Those are pretty awesome.
Yeah, usually it's in conjunction with something negative that they're doing with it to make fun of those referees.
Yes, that one was a little weird. But yeah, I guess like you said, Tyler, it's kind of good that they have all these partnerships going, and they want to advertise these companies, and these companies are hopefully going to advertise the NLL as well. So it's a good two-way. It did seem weird, and I've seen other people talk about. I went to the NLL website shortly after the game ended, and there was nothing there, and you can't find a box score, and the box scores aren't updated, and this kind of stuff. So it does sound like they're sort of spending their time on the wrong things. But yeah, I guess we'll see how that goes going forward. But we do have 4 games to talk about. So really quickly, I'll just cover those. Defending champion Georgia Swarm lost to the New England Black Wolves 13-11. The Buffalo Bandits took out the Rock 13-9. Colorado went into Vancouver and smushed them 15-8. But not as bad as Rochester smushed Calgary in Rochester 17-6. So I'm going to say all 4 of those were really surprising results, only because I went 4 in my predictions and got them all wrong. So I guess we'll move on to the awesome and not awesome section. I guess I can start off by saying all 4 results for me were not awesome, but we'll get to that later. Actually, my first one was going to be Ryan Lee's first goal. I'll get to that later. I wore my Rochester jersey as a sort of an apology to the Rochester Nighthawks because I picked them to finish 4th in the East, and I thought about putting them 5th in the East. And they came out and they kicked butt all over the place on Friday night. The offense did really well. Cody Jamieson came back. I didn't expect to have him in the lineup, which is kind of why, or partially why I picked Rochester to finish 4th. But he looked really good. Dan Dawson looked really good. He didn't have a great season last year, but I think he missed having Jameson around. So the 2 of them looked really good. Their defense was solid. Matt Vince was outstanding. He looked like Matt Vince did from 2 or 3, 4 years ago when he was winning Goalie of the Year awards every year. So the team just put together a really solid game, and so good job, Rochester. Tyler, what do you got?
Wait, sorry. If they beat the worst team in the league, what did they really prove? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far.
We'll see. We'll find
Yeah,
out
we're
this
starting at
weekend.
0. It's not the worst team yet.
Yeah.
We're all fresh.
Yes.
No best or worst teams yet.
Yep. So coming out of that same game, my first awesome of the week is Matt Vince. Not only did he look as a goalie as good as he's ever looked, he scored 3 points on assists. And in doing so, he outscored every single Roughnecks player. Nobody had more than 2 points for the Roughnecks, and the goalie for the other team had 3. That's how bad things were for Calgary, but I'm focusing on the positive of that is completely awesome. I know, Graham, you've got the stats going back to, 05? It'd be interesting to see if you could pull up a game where a goalie outscored the entire other team, because that is pretty awesome. Melissa, do you have any awesomes to add to the list?
I do not, which we'll kind of get into when we get into my not awesomes. So we'll just skip me.
Sure. Graham, you typing away, or you want me to do another one?
I'll go. Actually, I guess what I should have done is I wore my Rochester jersey to sort of apologize to Rochester, and I don't have a Buffalo jersey, so maybe I should get one because I need to apologize to Buffalo as well. I picked them to finish last in the East, and they came out and kicked the Rock's butt all over the place. Alex Bouquet made his debut for the Bandits and looked really good. And I did see a couple of Bandits fans saying, well, we had crappy goaltending last year, so anything better than that would be great. And I don't think Cosmo was terrible last year. He certainly didn't have his best year ever, but either way, Bouquet looked really good. The strong Rock offense didn't look all that strong. I didn't think they were bad. They weren't terrible. But they didn't show the firepower that I expected. They just sort of weren't in sync. There was something sort of off. And I don't know if that was the Rock being off or the Bandits defense keeping them off. But the Bandits defense looked really solid as well. Dane Smith and Callum Crawford look like they're going to work pretty well with Josh Byrne. Mitch Jones scored a really nice goal from behind the net. That's up on the NLL TV Versus this week, and I'll get to that later as well. But yeah, similar to Rochester, Buffalo just played a really solid game from top to bottom, and they looked really good. So somewhat of an apology to Buffalo as well. Now we will wait till the end of the season to see if they had a great beginning and then fell off the table, or if they can continue that. But that we'll have the rest of the season to look for that. So, Tyler, what's your next one?
Sure. My next awesome is the rookies across the league. They came in ready to play. They are able to score goals. They can play defense. They can do whatever teams need them to do. So you think, oh, some rookie maybe took some previous players spot away. But they do it. and they do it because they can play, not maybe because they're cheap, and have to worry about stuff like that. But they score goals. They produce, and they come in mature and ready to go. I think that it's a great sign for the league. I think that as they look to expand and having rookies who are enough young players ready to come in and fill numerous spots on the new teams, the future is bright for the NLL. So yeah, I'm excited for this year's rookie class and how they've started and what that means every year going forward. I'll go back to you, Graham.
All right, next one, actually, I guess I'm going to combine a couple of awesomes here. I was going to talk about Ryan Lee's first NLL goal. Ryan Lee is a rookie on the Mammoth, and I don't remember who got the assist on this one, but basically passed it to Lee, who was standing with his back to the goal, and he just kind of nonchalantly shoveled it over his shoulder right into the top corner. Beautiful. Yeah, I don't know if that was a Hail Mary kind of, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere near the net, but I'll try it. But we've seen enough of those in the NLL that it probably wasn't. But it was a pretty nice goal. And it is featured on the NLL Versus feature that is on NLL TV, run by Tyson Geik. And so that was going to be my next awesome. So I'll combine them together. So the two goals that are going head to head this week are that one by Ryan Lee and the Mitch Jones one that I mentioned earlier, where he kind of parked himself behind the net. Nobody seemed to notice him back there, though Bandits were on a power play. And I think it was Jordan Durston made it look like he was going to shoot, getting Nick Rose ready for the shot, and then shot it over Nick Rose right to Jones, who just tucked it in the net, which was pretty nice. So those are the two goals going against each other on Versus, and I watched the Versus little video clip earlier tonight, and I have to say it looked pretty good. I mean, the video quality is good. The video production is top notch. It really looked good. So good job to Tyson and the video production guys that are put all that together. I also watched the first episode of a new show that the NLL has called Relax, which is Ashley and Tyson and Pat Gregoire all sitting together and kind of doing what we're doing and just talk about the games. And that looked pretty good as well. It was obviously more polished than three nobodies like us sitting around chatting, but it was fun. So yeah, so good job on to those guys and to NLL TV for putting that on, and it looks pretty professional. Tyson Tyler, sorry, getting
yes, I'm
confused
not
here.
that other guy. Thank you. Yeah. Similar goal to the Jordan Durston to why am I blanking on
Jones.
Mitch's name?
Mitch Jones.
I had a different Mitch in my head. Mitch Jones. Is Cody Jamieson did a very similar thing to Dan Dawson in the Rochester game. He had a huge windup and like, oh, Jamieson's back. Here comes this big shot. And he just sails it 3 feet high. Dan Dawson's like, I got it. Dunk. Just dead simple. Goalie was out of position. It was a beautiful fake. Everybody's watching. Here comes Jamieson's big shot. He's coming back strong. No, he just totally faked him out. And it was an easy layup from behind for Dan Dawson and his long arms. And Dan Dawson individually, he had some shots that were just perfectly moved. They were really moving, perfectly placed. And he had a great weekend, even though he's now squarely an elder statesman in the league. Few people have been around as long as him. He had a weekend that shows he is as good as any of them at the moment. That's what I feel like. Cool. That was my last awesome. Do you have another awesome, or Melissa, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add until we get to the not awesomes, but my not awesomes definitely tie into some of what you both have listed. So
I do have one more, which I guess will tie into the not awesomes as well, but I wanted to start with the We always talk about the video feeds from the various arenas and the various games almost every week last year, and that will probably continue. This week we had sort of the two extremes. Sorry, since we're on the awesome part, I'll start with those. But I had no problems with the Twitter feed from Buffalo. It was pretty solid all night. I think I missed one goal because it sort of paused for about 15 seconds. But pretty much the rest of the game was fine. I did see other people talking about that had some problems, but mine was fine. And the feed from Vancouver was perfect. I don't think there were any from Vancouver at all. That was great. So, yeah, good job on those feeds. I didn't see the feed from the New England game. Apparently, it was a total nightmare. There were people saying they saw all of 15 seconds of the second quarter, and the rest of it was just either stopped or they were getting all kinds of video problems. So hopefully something gets fixed there. Part of me wants to say, well, it's the beginning of the season, so give them a break and see if it continues. But it's the same arena. It's the same. I mean, there may have been some changes here and there, but they've had 6 months to get this right. And they had all last year to get this right, and they had the year before to get this right. And you can only give them so much slack and say, well, it's the beginning of the season, so give them a break. But we've been doing that for 2 years, and it's like, okay, when are you going to get this right? And we won't have to give you any more slack. So I guess I've kind of moved into the not awesome. So that wasn't awesome. And the fact that in the Buffalo game, and I didn't see this part of it, there was the Buffalo game or the Rochester game? One of the games, there was the banner showing the score and how much time is left and stuff was about 3/4 of the way up the screen, rather than right at the very top or at the very bottom or somewhere sort of out of the way. It was right in the middle, and you couldn't see half of the play going on. And it just makes you wonder, like, who put that there, and who thought that was the logical place to put it? Like, it's not like somebody was writing the code to do this 20 minutes before game time. Somebody had to have been doing this a while before, and obviously wasn't thinking clearly to think that was a smart place to put it. So I think they just took it off entirely for the rest of the game because they probably takes too much time to fix it. So that was certainly not awesome. So Melissa, what do you got?
So my big one is the fact that we had 3 Friday night games, which leads into the attendance, because we know Friday night games aren't as well attended, and the fact that we're starting the season so much earlier. I know for me as a big fan, it completely snuck up on me and blindsided me. I had totally, completely, utterly forgotten that this was opening weekend, despite NLL sending emails and things. I teach, and so this is finals week, so I was trying to cram everything, and it just, oh my God, there's games? What's going on? I have no idea. And if I'm a fan and I'm on top of this, or not, as the case may be, the casual fans aren't. And it sounds like pretty much only your basic season ticket holders were probably at these games. And since some of the games, the teams don't have as strong of a base, that just doesn't seem like that really helps. I mean, people just aren't thinking about lacrosse yet. And so to have all those games on Friday night as well, instead of even Saturday, I think they're not starting the season off the way that they should. So that's kind of my big not awesome was, oh my God, I forgot that the opening weekend was this particular weekend. I was thinking we had another week. So yeah, that was mine. What about you, Tyler?
Yeah, right in the same line. My first not awesome is the attendance in Vancouver. They had momentum and fan base growing through the entire 2017 season last year. They finished with a home playoff game, which was one of their best attended games I think they ever had up there. And then they have a home opener, which was one of their worst attended games ever. Fridays sure didn't help. Combined with starting a month early, so that the casual fan is thinking, all right, season's starting right for New Year's, and they're like, but there's already a game. Like, they had no idea. They won't have any idea. And it was not a good combination of events, and the end result was a poorly attended game. And it wasn't like they had New England coming in or Toronto coming in and trying to get just the stealth fans and the fans of stealth players to show up. They had Colorado, who's half their players from British Columbia, so they have good family ties and recognition in the area. Probably a lot of them played summer ball there, and they still couldn't pack the arena. So that was a bummer to see. What do you got, Graham?
I guess I'll continue along the same vein. And not just Vancouver, though. Attendance was low pretty much everywhere. We had 3,201 people in Vancouver, which I looked it up. I think there were 10 games in Vancouver with lower attendance, so not quite in the bottom 10, but almost. 4,596 in Rochester is the second lowest ever in Rochester. About 11,500 in Buffalo, which is awesome compared to everybody else, but it's their lowest attendance in about 3 years. And about almost 5,500 in New England. Now it's the lowest of all of their home openers, but they've only had 3 or 4. And that was actually the 5th highest game in their history. So New England seems to be doing okay, but the other 3 did not. And yeah, I'm sure part of that is the fact that they're starting early and people either aren't ready for the NLL quite yet, or just have too many holiday-related things going on. And they're like, okay, I'll deal with the NLL after Christmas. And yeah, so if that's part of it, maybe the league made a mistake moving to December. They're trying to get rid of the back-to-backs on the same weekends and stuff like that. So maybe they've decided, you know what, if we take a hit in attendance, it solves this other problem, so that's something we'll live with. Say, you know what, that hit in attendance was not worth it, so screw it, we'll go back. If that's what they decide, let's happens, oh, it didn't work, well, let's change it back. I'm totally okay with that. It's when they make a change, it doesn't work, and they dig in and don't want to admit that it was a mistake. We've seen that. I'm sure the NLL has done it as well. Nothing comes to mind right now, but I'm pretty sure the mini game was not super popular, but they stuck with that for a few years. But they have got rid of it. But other leagues have done the same sort of thing. They make some sort of rule change. Nobody likes it. It doesn't work, but they refuse to admit that it's a mistake. So if this is moving to a December start is a problem, and they decide next year, yeah, we're not doing that again, then good for them. So that's my first not awesome. Melissa, what's next?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this works out, because some of it could be we just need to learn to adapt. This is the first December that we had, and it just wasn't on my mind in the slightest. But I don't even remember getting an email from the Mammoth saying, hey, opening weekend is this weekend. Maybe it's because it was an away game, but you'd still think that I would have gotten an email from my home team saying, guess what? The season starts this weekend. Because I might have paid attention to that. I said before that I really was kind of ignoring the NLL ones because I just was getting one every single day, it seemed. And I had other things to focus on. But I don't even remember getting one from the Mammoth. And so it will be interesting to watch how this plays out, because it does seem like the start date has been all over the place, because sometimes it's around January 15th. And then last year we had New Year's Day games, which threw a lot of people off. And we, as we discussed last year, definitely were not well attended. So it might just be we need to adapt, and others it might just not work. But I know for me, it blindsided me. But that's all I had. So what about you, Tyler?
Sure. I'm going to move on the floor for my last couple of not awesomes. And I'm going to start with kind of very poignant, but I'm going to say the Roughnecks. Every single one of the Roughnecks players was not awesome. To have the first game of the season when you have the most time to prepare for it, come out and nobody scores any points. Defensively, you're letting the other team dominate or dictate the action. It was a bad opening weekend for them. I predicted them to win the game. I said, yeah, like Rochester hasn't shown me that they're actually making any moves to get better, and Calgary has Curtis Dixon, so that's a good thing for them. And nope, absolutely did not matter. It was the exact opposite of what I thought would happen, and it surprised me. But I was, most surprised, as I alluded to, or not alluded to, as I said, with my Matt Vince being awesome and outscoring all the Roughnecks players, that it is not awesome that the Roughnecks were all outscored by the other team's goalie. You had no chance. If that ever happens, I couldn't imagine a team winning in a situation where that happens. What's your next one, Graham?
No, I would have to agree. I'm looking at the Calgary score sheet now, and Dan McRae leads the way with a goal and an assist. And no offense to Dan McRae, but if he's your leading scorer on any given night, you're not having a great night. Actually, if you look down the list, you got Tyson Bell, who's a transition guy, Zach Currier, who's a transition guy, then Greg Harnett, then Curtis Manning. You don't even get an offensive guy until you get down to Riley Lowe and Holden Katoni. And guys like Westberg had 1 assist, Tyler Digby had 1 assist, Dixon 1 assist, Doby nothing at all. Del Bianco and Shiliano each had an assist, so they both outscored Dane Doby. It wasn't even just Vince. So that's my not awesome is basically the star power in the league did not have a star power type night. Obviously, as we said, the Roughnecks, Berg, Doby, and Dixon combined for 3 assists and no goals. Reese Dutch and Corey Small in the Vancouver game combined for 3 assists and no goals. Tom Schreiber by himself had 3 assists, but also no goals. So when those 6 guys have 0 goals combined, something's wrong. Some of them didn't get the memo that they were going to not score. 9 points. Ryan Benesh had 8. Dane Smith had 7. So they were holding up their end of the bargain. And coincidentally, all of their teams won. So yeah, that's not something we expect to see for the rest of the season. I'm quite sure by the time we get to the end of the season, Dixon and Small and Dutch and Schreiber will be up near the top of the points in the goal scoring lists. It's a little odd that all of them had such a horrible start to the season. So Melissa, you said you were done. Tyler, do you have any others?
Yes, I've got one more. Sad one for me, as it is my favorite team, the Stealth. But the Stealth offense was offensive. They basically, sadly, it matched what I predicted. You can't go through the training camp and have Reese Dutch sitting out training camp. Logan Schuss didn't play one of the weekends. Joel McCready was taking off time in the training camp and expect them to come out the first week and be productive. And they weren't. But there are bigger issues than that. The Mammoth never let them go inside, never let them do anything close to the goal. McCready came close to doing that in the second half. He only had the last 2 goals of the game after the Stealth. They only scored 2 goals in the last 3 quarters of the game. McCready scored both of them. After I tweeted that, I don't even know why he's on the team, because he can take dumb penalties and he takes stupid shots, and that's not a great combination. But he also has a ton of heart, and when the team was doing nothing, he did. So, and that's one reason he is on the team, and why I'm not in charge or anything. But it was, I knew it was going to be a slow start for the Stealth with the time that the star players missed in training camp. I wish it wasn't this slow, but it wasn't as bad as the Roughnecks. And it'll make this weekend very interesting when they go on the road to Calgary. But that was my last not awesome. You got anything else, Graham?
I do not. Other than Vancouver had 3 goals in the last 3 quarters.
Oh, I apologize to whoever scored.
2 by Bobby Creedy and 1 by Travis Cornwall.
Oh, good. Whew. That makes my day a lot better. I always thought it was 2. It ruined my whole week, but now it's 3 goals. 3 goals in 3 quarters, no problem.
Yeah, it's all good now. Okay, speaking of all good, let's get to our predictions. And these were not all good at all. Well, speaking for myself, I went 0 for 4, as did, I think, 3/4 of the IL Indoor group, who all made picks as well. Evan Schemenauer mentioned that he went 0 for 4 as well. So it's a lot of people didn't do well this weekend. You guys, on the other hand, went 2 and 2, so not so bad. I didn't even
Yes.
realize until afterwards that you both made the same picks, which means you had the same score. So you guys got Buffalo over Toronto and Colorado over Vancouver, and we all missed, well, everything else. So I'm starting the year 0-4. You guys are 2-2, and so
Makes for a better
unless,
comeback story later.
true enough. So once I go 77-4 for the rest of the season, then that'll be good. Okay, so Melissa, why don't you go first on the only two games this week?
All right. So that first one, I am really second guessing on. When I made my picks, I hadn't actually even looked at the score and realized that Calgary basically didn't show up to the game. But I think I'm going to stick with them. They tend to play strong in Calgary, especially against Vancouver, and it sounds like Vancouver has some similar struggles. So I think we're going to go with Calgary. Not positive. I'm not feeling strong on either choice. With the Rush and Toronto, I'm going to go with the Rush. That's definitely a bias. I like the Rush, and I tend to pick them, especially since they've been playing so well the past few seasons. So I think they'll just start strong and we'll keep it simple. What about you, Tyler?
Sure. I'm going to pick Vancouver to beat Calgary in that first game. I feel that even though they both lost, there's still more upside to the Vancouver roster. The Roughnecks offense, like Holden Catone's your best left-hander. He's a fine player, but he's only in his second year. Dane Delby's fell off a cliff and 0 points. Curtis Dixon, you got to worry about one guy, Curtis Dixon, as usual. I think we talked about that last week. If it's Curtis Dixon and a bunch of other people, let Curtis Dixon go, shit on everybody else, and they can still win games against the Roughnecks with that formula. He's had some great games against the Stealth, so we'll see what happens. But in general, the Stealth can do it. They have 5 forwards on the floor who are legitimate threats usually, so I feel more confident in that situation. They'll get it worked out, and it's time to get it worked out now. Can't let it wait till January. Second game, Saskatchewan at Toronto. Tough one. The Rush are a great team, but the Rock have played their first game and the Rush have not. The Rock know what they need to tweak and can adjust this week. The Rush don't necessarily know what they have. They pretty much do. They don't run a big camp and really have lots of cuts to worry about, but still it's a little different in game situations. And I think the fact that the Rock got to play last weekend and work out some of those kinks can be to their advantage, and they can pull off. It's kind of an upset in my mind because you wouldn't consider them to be the better team. But I can still pick them to win because of the situation of having already played one game while the Rush have played none. What are your picks, Graham?
All right. In 3 of the 4 teams that are playing, in the cases of those, I started to think, well, they lost last week, so they're going to be really mad, and so they're going to play really well. But of course, Calgary and Vancouver can't both get really mad and therefore win. They can both get really mad and change the way they play, but only one of them is going to win. And I don't think it's necessarily a question of who gets madder, but neither team played well last week. I think Calgary played worse compared to what they are capable of than Vancouver did. So I think they have more to. They sort of have a how do I say this? They played further below what they're capable of. So I think they'll even just regressing to the mean, like coming back to where they normally would play, would give them a good chance of winning. So I'm going to go with Calgary on that one. Saskatchewan and Toronto, Tyler makes a bunch of good points. And I really hope he's right. As a Toronto fan, as I'm going to this game, I'm looking forward to seeing it, looking forward to seeing the Rush. But I think the Rush is just too strong a team, and assuming Evan Kirk plays as well as they think he's going to, even if Toronto does tweak their offense and manages to get everybody firing on all cylinders, I think Saskatchewan's defense will be up to the task, and I'm going to pick the Rush and hope that I'm wrong. So I guess that is all the stuff that we had planned. Anybody have any other points that they wanted to make?
No, it's great to be back again. Seems last week. Happy to be here. Only 2 games this weekend, but one of my team plays in one of them, so it's not as bad as a weekend as some other people who are like, "Oh, where'd my team go?"
Like, say, Melissa.
Yeah, well, at least this weekend I'm not trying to grade final projects and things like that, so I actually know the games are on. I'm watching this weekend, so it'll be a little different story next weekend.
Excellent. Well, like Tyler said, we're glad to be back and glad to be watching games again and glad to be recording podcasts again. So I guess that will do it for another episode of Addicted to Lacrosse. For Tyler and Melissa, I'm Graham. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.